Tonight, homes destroyed and a roof ripped off a Bunbury pub as wild weather lashes our southwest. WA's firearm laws to get even tougher, the new penalty for gun owners accused of domestic violence. The desperate search for a trainee nurse buried in the rubble of a terrifying explosion. An unlikely duo joined forces in an Aussie tourism campaign with a twist. Plus, young eagle Harley Reid's wings clip suspension dashing his rising star hopes. And the Dockers record one of their biggest wins in club history, demolishing the D's in our Red Centre.
This is 9 News Perth with Tracy Ver.
Good evening. Homes have been torn apart and the roof ripped off a popular pub with people still inside as a severe storm tore through Perth and our southwest. Bunbury, the worst hit, 4 people injured and taken to hospital.
The Parade Hotel, no match for a monster storm.
It was scary. It was an intense blast, and I thought from where we were that the windows were caving.
The roof torn from the Bunbury pub with patrons inside. 2 were taken to hospital.
It's a sad story in the sense that those owners have put their heart and soul into rebuilding that pub after major fire damage, and to see it in the condition that it's in now, it's a tough gig. Wild weather wreaking havoc. Southwest once again copying the worst of it.
Holy the neighbour's fence!
Always Garden flattened. The damage bill at least $500,000.
It's come through and cleared out everything. Every shade house, every hot house, thousands of plants gone.
There were more than 200 calls for help and for some parts of the state more than 80 millimetres of rain. Bunbury Surf Life-Saving Tower, another casualty to the severe weather. Wild winds ripping it from the sand, sending it flying several metres from the beach. Today, SES crews started assessing the damage while homeowners cleaned up the mess.
Well, it's a big storm, so that's the second one in less than a month, so Bunbury's copping a bit of a hammering.
The Bureau of Meteorology now working to determine whether or not Bunbury's storm was in fact a tornado.
The final report that we're waiting for is evidence of rotation.
The damage felt in Perth too. In Armidale, a huge tree toppled over, a driver smashing into it.
Very shaken, obviously, as you would be, really, really scary.
And there's more to come with another front expected Thursday. Rachel Clifford, 9 News.
Let's bring in Natalia Cooper now. Natalia, how much rain did we get?
Good evening, Tracy. We were absolutely inundated. Heavy falls across the suburbs overnight. Rolly Stone, Ankertel and Swanbourne were all hit with 48 millimetres of rain. The city recording 43 millimetres, which is almost double the amount of rain we received in the 7 months from October through to April. And this is how last night's storms looked on the radar. A line moving through around 11 o'clock and another around 3 or 4 this morning. The strongest wind gust was 102 kilometres an hour at Rottnest. A 93 kilometre an hour gust was recorded at Armament Jetty. The front responsible is now making its way through central and eastern parts of the state. Another cold front is due to bring us more decent falls on Thursday. I'll be back with the full forecast for the week ahead a little later in the bulletin, Tracy.
Heavy falls indeed. Natalia, we'll see you soon. Thank you. The state government continues to focus on strengthening gun laws in the wake of the Floreat murders. Soon, owners of firearms accused of domestic violence will automatically have their guns removed, pending an investigation.
What happened in Floreat has changed lives forever, and it'll change WA's gun laws. Soon, licensed firearm owners who are formally accused of domestic violence will have their guns immediately seized by police.
There would be a 24, 48, 72-hour period in which the police can undertake an initial investigation to see if there's any veracity or substance to the complaint.
The Premier wants the laws passed this month. Under the change, Mark Bombara would have had his 13 guns taken pending police inquiry. His daughter and wife made a formal complaint 7 weeks before he went looking for them, shooting dead Jennifer and Gretel Patelchek. The government says confiscation isn't a judgment of guilt.
This is not necessarily saying that that person is a potential murderer or will do harm with those guns. It is simply saying that as a community, we believe that guns are taken out of that whole equation.
I applaud the government for actually looking at that more seriously. However, it's so well overdue. It's it's not funny.
And this won't be the final last-minute change to the government's gun reforms. 9 News understands getting a collector's licence, the type Mark Bombara had, is about to get a whole lot tougher. Survivors of family violence say gun reform is a tiny piece in this tragic puzzle.
A bit of smoke and mirrors by the government, looking at something that they can do immediately to take the heat off of what has happened with this case.
Man up, you're playing like a girl!
Ads like these will hit screens in September in a $5 million campaign aiming to change attitudes. It's much faster to change laws. Michael Genovese, 9 News.
Meanwhile, frontline domestic violence services say they're overwhelmed by growing demand. New data revealing the number of attacks across WA will reach a record high this year for the first time.
When a woman flees male violence, they're forced to make sacrifices just to be safe.
When they leave domestic violence situations, they literally leave with nothing but the clothes on their back.
And there's a growing number like them.
We have victim survivors out there, women and children, who are reaching out to services much more than they might otherwise be doing. There's a lot of fear, as you can imagine.
Data revealing family and domestic violence in WA are up 41% and will surpass 30,000 incidents annually this year for the first time. The real figure, likely much higher, 80% of women do not report.
They fear what may happen.
Recent horrific failings have shone a light on FDV across WA, but frontline services say every phase of support has long been underfunded.
That system improvement won't be good enough. We need a serious system reform.
Worthy works in the post-crisis space, furnishing 2 Perth homes for 2 families escaping violence every week, relieving those victims of a $10,000 burden as they rebuild their homes.
It's so overwhelming, it's extraordinarily expensive, so we take that pressure off them.
Such is the demand for Worthy's services, they simply no longer have the space necessary to store all their furniture. They're now trying to get into a warehouse so they can keep fitting out more and more safe haven homes like this one.
We can't keep up with the demand, which is really sad.
Connor McGovern, 9 News.
And if you or anyone you know is a victim of domestic violence, there is help out there. Call 1-800-RESPECT. That's 1-800-737-732. 3 teenagers have been rescued after their vehicle became bogged in Gregory, just south of Kalbarri. A pilot calling it in after flying over a help message written in the sand. The group was stranded for 6 hours. Premier Roger Cook has labelled the disruption at Perth Airport yesterday as embarrassing. All 4 terminals were shut down for the first time in history, leaving 68 domestic and international flights cancelled and thousands of passengers stranded because of a refuelling issue.
I'm pleased that Perth Airport were able to address that situation as quickly as possible, but that was an embarrassing situation.
Flights have now resumed, with the airport tonight operating as normal. A national drug syndicate accused of laundering dirty money through a WA construction company has been busted by police, who seized more than $1 million in cash during the operation. The alleged head of the crime ring, who goes by Fat Boy, was arrested in Perth after disembarking a flight from Sydney.
Do you speak English? Not good, no.
The 39-year-old is one of 11 men charged, with more arrests expected. The search is growing more desperate tonight for a woman believed buried in a Sydney house explosion. Crews are working non-stop, combing through the rubble amid increasing concerns that gas had been leaking from the complex long before the blast.
The view from the air and the enormity facing rescuers. The Whalen unit complex blown to pieces. And feared buried in the rubble, a young trainee nurse who was visiting her mother. Carol was in the unit below when the complex blew up.
All of a sudden, there was this loud explosion. It just like a... And then everything started to come down, ceilings everywhere.
As concrete beams and tiles rained down, Carol sheltered under a door frame. Throughout the night, they kept searching. Like a scene from an earthquake disaster, a human chain of fireys, police and paramedics, carefully passing chunks of rubble, concrete and tiles. And then, moments of complete silence as rescuers slid under the concrete slab that had fallen one story, listening for any hint that the nurse might be alive.
So the physical impacts of that explosion and then, of course, the consequence of the structural collapse in all the parts of the building would have been a very challenging situation for anyone to survive.
As brutal as the explosion was, finding someone alive is a delicate procedure. The Urban Search and Rescue team assisted in the Turkey earthquake. Here, they're using thermal imaging cameras and ultra-sensitive microphones. So the question remains, what caused this explosion? All the speculation continues to centre on a gas leak, either in the top or the bottom story. The units were government-owned, and the possible build-up of gas is being looked at.
The Housing Minister is investigating that promptly, urgently. That's of grave concern.
The mother of the missing nurse stayed at the search overnight, and she was there again today, keeping vigil, praying for news and being looked after by neighbours.
She kept saying, my daughter's strong, my daughter's strong, my daughter's strong. And I just said to her, just have faith and have strength. And at this stage, we need to look after you.
The 5 people taken to hospital have been discharged. As for those who lost their home,
I'm just happy to be standing here. And that was our little community. All us oldies.
Mark Burrows, 9 News.
Australia is preparing to surrender billions of dollars in gas revenue to stop Beijing's attempts to woo one of our nearest neighbours. 9 News can tonight reveal the federal government has offered the Timorese government incentives to fast-track a long-stalled offshore gas project.
China has been getting cosy with Timor-Leste, and it's beginning to concern Australia. So Canberra's upping the ante through Foreign Minister Penny Wong's special envoy, former Victorian Premier Steve Bracks.
There is a significant offer there. It'll be of great benefit to Timor-Leste.
9 News can reveal Timor-Leste has been offered a multi-billion-dollar lifeline to fast-track the long-stalled Greater Sunrise offshore gas project.
To see the field developed as soon as feasibly possible.
And for the revenue to flow to the Timor-Leste government.
The Greater Sunrise gas field, 450 kilometres northwest of Darwin and 150 kilometres south of Timor-Leste, holds $50 billion worth of gas. If Timor-Leste agrees to have the gas piped to Darwin for processing, it'll not only receive 80% of the revenue, but Australia has also offered half its share to set up a dedicated infrastructure fund for Timor.
We don't want a pipeline for the sake of a pipeline. The pipeline coming to Timor-Leste will generate thousands of jobs.
The Timorese want to spur economic development by processing the gas in the south of their nation, but this may be commercially unviable compared to the Darwin option, both sides agreeing to an independent analysis.
If it is persuasive enough, I'm sure the government would consider it.
A promising sign, given the bad blood caused 20 years ago when Australia spied on the Timorese during negotiations over oil and gas fields. Australia's also offering Timor-Leste more migrant worker access, plus an equity stake in the Darwin processing plant to put the impoverished nation on a stable financial footing.
We don't want to push them to even think of going to China.
Getting gas flowing from Greater Sunrise has become a top strategic objective for the Albanese government to give Timor-Leste the ability to resist Beijing's influence. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
The Defence Minister has used a meeting with his Chinese counterpart in Singapore to call out what he's called Beijing's unsafe and unprofessional behaviour on the high seas. Richard Miles registered Australia's concerns with Dongjun following an incident last month where a Chinese fighter jet dropped flares in front of an Australian helicopter off the Korean coast. Mr Miles said it was a very frank discussion.
Having a dialogue of that kind in place allows us to have a much better understanding of what we're doing and creates much greater safety.
Beijing blamed Australia for provoking the flare incident, claiming the helicopter was spying on Chinese military, an assertion rejected by Australia. Former Liberal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg is said to be considering running in his former seat of Kooyong at the next federal election. The Liberals could hold another pre-selection following proposed changes to the seat's boundaries laid out by the Electoral Commission on Friday. The party's pre-selected candidate for Kooyong is 31-year-old Amelia Hamer. Teal independent Monique Ryan defeated Frydenberg at the last election after 12 years in the seat. West Coast Eagles youngster Harley Reid has learned his fate over a divisive, dangerous tackle in yesterday's loss to St Kilda. Bonnie Raynor, it split the AFL world.
It certainly has, Tracy. The 2-match ban has ruled unbackable favourite Harley Reid out of the running for the coveted Rising Star Award. Chief Football reporter Tom Morris has these details.
Yes, Bonnie, Harley Reid might just be about the most talked-to player in the AFL across the last 3 months, even on the east coast of Australia, all for the right reasons. But tonight, he's in the news for the wrong reasons, suspended for 2 games following this dangerous tackle on St Kilda's Darcy Wilson. Now, the key in the MRO's eyes was that Reid slung Wilson to the ground with what the AFL deems to be excessive force, which has been outlawed for a couple of years now as the league continues its crusade against protecting the head. It was graded as careless conduct, high contact and, crucially, high impact due to the potential to cause serious injury. Reid's suspension means he'll be ineligible for the coveted Rising Star Award, as will the second favourite, Western Bulldog Sam Darcy, after he received a 2-week ban this weekend. And despite Kane Corns, Jimmy Bartell and Dan Hanbury and many others calling on the AFL to change its rules, the league told me just a few moments ago it will not be changing the eligibility criteria. Now, coincidentally, this leaves Darcy Wilson, the player Reid tackled, as the new Stephen Bradbury-like favourite for the Rising Star Award. But unfortunately, Reid, he'll miss the next 2 weeks, Bonnie.
Massive ramifications there, Trace, and of course a potential tribunal challenge. More on that ahead in sport, plus a Docker demolition in the top end.
Pain for the Eagles, delight for the Dockers. All right, Bonnie, we'll see you soon. Thanks very much. Still to come this Sunday, a motorbike rider fighting for life after slamming into a light pole in our southern suburbs. Plus, Donald Trump ringside just days after becoming a convicted criminal. Why this Monet painting in Paris was vandalised. And a century in the making, the 100-year-old composer's symphony finally comes to life. 4 people have been seriously injured in a crash in Maylands just after midnight. A white Toyota Prado station wagon with 3 people inside collided with a black Kia Rio hatchback at the intersection of Guildford Road and Falkirk Avenue. Officers from Major Crash are still investigating how it happened. Meanwhile, a motorbike rider is fighting for life in Royal Perth Hospital after smashing into a light pole in Wattleup. The 37-year-old was riding along Russell Road around 8 o'clock last night when he lost control. Police in Canberra were left stunned after pulling over a Toyota Corolla driving erratically. The 36-year-old driver allegedly blowing almost 9 times the legal limit, a near-fatal level of alcohol. He's been suspended from driving for 90 days, with ACT police saying it's one of the highest readings they've ever seen. The federal government has vowed to jail anyone found guilty of distributing sexually explicit deepfake pictures or videos. If passed, the laws will make it illegal to share any non-consensual digitally altered pornography, with a maximum penalty of 7 years behind bars. Benjamin Netanyahu has reiterated Israel will not end its war in Gaza unless Hamas is destroyed. The Prime Minister's statement casts doubt on the United States' recent announcement of a new Israeli-led ceasefire plan. Pro-Palestinian protesters then confronting President Joe Biden outside a church.
Mr. President, are we closer to a ceasefire?
Over the past 48 hours, Qatar, Egypt and the United States have all publicly called for a ceasefire. Days after he became a convicted criminal, Donald Trump has stolen the show at a UFC event. The former US president played to the crowd as a key witness in his case slammed him in the press.
From the courthouse to Fight Club.
Donald Trump is in the building and the former president getting a standing ovation from the assembled masses.
2 days after a jury handed him a guilty verdict on 34 counts, Trump, now the first former US president to become a convicted criminal, at a different stoush, the UFC.
Boy, the round of applause he's getting right now is pretty staggering. Well done, mate.
It might have been a raucous reception in New Jersey, but he's received a much colder one from the woman at the centre of his New York trial. Stormy Daniels telling the UK's Sunday Mirror, "I think he should be sentenced to jail and some community service working for the less fortunate, or being the volunteer punching bag at a women's shelter." The former porn star was paid hush money in the days before the 2016 election to stay silent over her affair with Donald Trump. He is completely and utterly out of touch with reality. "I've been telling the truth the entire time," she said. Yesterday, Donald Trump was still pleading he'd done nothing wrong.
So it's not hush money. It's a non-disclosure agreement, totally legal.
But it wasn't the hush money payment itself Donald Trump was convicted for. It was that he falsified business records to hide it. Now, the former president has 40 days to find out what punishment the judge has in mind.
President Trump, you're the man, bro. It is a damn travesty what they're doing to
you. In the United States, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
A climate activist has stuck a sign over a Monet painting in Paris in protest over global heating. She was quickly arrested. The artwork is protected by glass and is not damaged. 100-year-old Monty Maisel has a remarkable CV as a performer and composer. Now he's achieved his lifelong dream, finally seeing his very own symphony come to life.
He is, as they say, the full Monty.
Just hang in there, baby.
Despite predating electronics, he's mastered that world.
There's a lot in the feeling that it's something for the young.
Now tech-savvy, Monty uses computers at home to create symphonies and other musical works, some with words.
When trains don't run in Collins Street and it snows in Alice Springs, when Labour win the Touareg seat, I'll be at her apron strings.
And this moment recently, more than a century in the making, for Monty, a dream come true.
Unbelievable.
An inaugural live performance of his Symphony No. 1 in G major.
It's an emotional thing that I wanted it to be heard by as many people as possible.
The Surrey Hills Orchestra delivered the rendition to an audience that included the man responsible, who keeps you on your toes.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did.
Did you have fun listening to it?
Yes, I did.
Well, that's all I need. Thank you very much.
Montague Maisel emigrated to Australia as a teenager from London in 1939 as a 10-pound pom, forging a career in radio, producing ad campaigns and thousands of hours of drama and documentary before turning his hand to acting, landing numerous roles, including the neighbour Jack in the Aussie classic The Castle.
Yeah, him.
Was it fun?
Oh, you're joking. How could it not be fun? It's wonderful.
After his wife Fran died in 2014, Monty declared he wanted to try stand-up comedy.
Comedy is not that difficult. It's the standing up that's so hard.
Family friend Graham Hewan, who helped arrange the orchestral performance, says Monty is an enigma.
Carpe diem. He grabs every day. And any challenge, no problem, he'll just push through that. And gets a lot of value out of people and out of the day.
So does he have any more symphonies in him?
Tomorrow, I could be playing a harp, if I'm not consigned elsewhere.
Jo Hall, 9 News.
Still to come tonight, the unlikely duo joining forces in a tourism campaign with a twist. Details on Bluey's big role selling Australia to the world. Also tonight, why the King has turned to David Beckham for help. Matilda Mania back ahead of their friendly showdown with China, and Five's a charm. Billionaire Rupert Murdoch ties the knot again. That's next. An unlikely duo has joined forces to sell Queensland to the world. The creative campaign stars Bluey and was today kicked off by a new world record set by hundreds of fans.
Keepy uppy Bluey style.
how much do you love Bluey?
Lots. Obsessed.
We've seen it on our screens.
Our toys save the balloon.
Just brings us together. We sing the theme song as it comes on every time.
Hooray!
And today, the biggest game ever played out right across the Sunshine State. Across an almost 2,000-kilometre long playing field in the outback, in the far north, on the shores of Kurrawa Beach on the Gold Coast and in Brisbane. What do you think the secret is to keep you up?
Just keeping your eye on the ball.
Up to 700 self-proclaimed pros fought tooth and nail, stopping the ball from hitting the ground, all in the name of a new world record secured today.
Congratulations! Really exciting. I didn't know I was going to actually be a part of the world record, but I was, and now I'm in the book.
It's only fitting Bluey's home state of Queensland takes the cake. The world record, the launching pad for the state's newest and biggest tourism campaign in more than a decade.
We're showcasing to the world what a wonderful state Bluey and her family live in.
With the help of our very own wildlife warrior.
Ever wished you could live in Bluey's world for real life? Well, that's all of Queensland.
The pitch is to the beloved Blue Heelers fans around the world. Come and see Bluey's backyard for yourself.
We have used this opportunity to showcase our Great Barrier Reef, our beaches, our ancient rainforest, our outback and everything in between.
And the only thing left to say,
hooray!
Jacob Chigo, 9 News.
King Charles has teamed up with football royalty to promote his main charity. David Beckham is becoming an ambassador for the King's Foundation. The announcement made today after he met with the monarch last month. The charity was caught up in a cash for honour scandal in 2022. The palace hopeful Becks can turn its image around. He's done it 4 times before, but Rupert Murdoch seemed confident he's finally found the one. The 93-year-old has married for a 5th time in the vineyard of his Bel Air estate. His bride is Elena Zhukova. She's 25 years his junior and a retired molecular biologist. They started dating last year. The Matildas team for the Olympics will be announced on Tuesday, a month ahead of the deadline. Tony Gustafsson says he wants to give the Australian public as much time as possible to get behind the team.
I really felt with COVID-21 and we announced the team in Sweden and on screens and couldn't even see families, not fans. And it was very important for me to make sure that the players could be with their families and friends.
The Matildas play China tomorrow night in Sydney, their final game before heading to France. 3 24-year-old weightlifters will make their Olympic debut in Paris. Eileen Sikamatana, Jacqueline Nichelle and Carl Bruce were named at the Victorian Weightlifting Stadium today. The athletes earned their spot in Paris through an exhaustive qualification process. Ahead on 9 News, priceless advice from the Einstein of Wall Street. His top tips to get ahead coming up after sport. And you'll barely believe it, the dog owner who took on a bear to save her pet. But Bonnie Raynor is back with more sport now. Bonnie, it was a day of destruction for the Dockers.
Certainly was, Trace. Records tumbling in the most prolific performance they've produced under Justin Longmuir. Could a Melbourne mauling be an omen for the second half of Freo's season? The Eagles ponder a tribunal challenge, Harley hit hard by the MRO. And Demon dominates in Paris before finding a special supporter in the crowd. The Dockers have produced a season-defining victory, the 92-point annihilation of the Demons, their biggest win under coach Justin Longmuir. Fremantle tallying 12 individual goal scorers, Jai Amos leading the charge with 4. Freo jumping to 6th on the ladder with a mouth-watering percentage.
A rare top-end road trip producing a result just as unfamiliar.
It is an onslaught.
Yeah, we'll put in performances like that, we'll come here again. They want to play us here again, though.
The Dockers, ruthless, humiliating the Demons, handing them their biggest defeat since 2016.
A day no one saw coming, a day that could change the course of the season. A Fremantle we've never seen before.
4 points in this comp are hard to get. And, yeah, we obviously played really well. So, yeah, the players should go to the bye with a bit of a smile on their face and understand that our best footy is good enough to beat anyone.
A forward line that's been failing to fire, leaving the scoring hoodoo at home.
Sonny Walters on target. Yes, he is.
Michael Walters silencing critics with 3 after a lean run. Jai Amos back to his sharp shooting with a game-high 4 majors. Fremantle's best opening term this year, giving an insight into what laid ahead. Even the defenders finding the big sticks.
And that's a great strike. And look how excited Jordan Clark is.
Clutch as always, Clayton Oliver bringing Melbourne back within reach.
At last, Melbourne kick a goal.
But former Demon Luke Jackson responding straight away. And it didn't stop there. The floodgates wide open, the Dockers kicking the next 5.
This has become a Freo party.
A 50-point deficit at the half, Melbourne's frustrations boiling over.
Melbourne are bickering with each other.
Adding insult to injury, Lockie Hunter subbed out with a calf complaint. Christian Petrarca keeping any glimmer of hope alive, the opponent dashing it just as quickly.
Frederick had a chance to have a good long look at them, and that was all he needed.
I was probably most pleased with the way we pressured them.
A jump up the ladder and a percentage boost just shy of 11, sweetening the victory, heading into the Dockers bye.
I think we've set ourselves with a pretty good platform to launch into the second half of the year.
Erin Harwood, 9 News.
The Eagles could be set for a tribunal challenge after young gun Harley Reid was handed a 2-match ban for his sling tackle in yesterday's loss to the Saints. The match review officer grading the incident as careless conduct, low impact and high contact, with the suspension set to rule him out of the race for the Rising Star Award.
Harley Reid's caught the eye of the entire footy world, now catching the unwanted attention of the MRO.
And Reid hitting back with physicality, but it's a dumb tackle and a free kick to the Saints.
But Adam Simpson had a different view.
I thought there was nothing in it. That's what I'll say.
The 19-year-old unstoppable in his short 10-game career, but finally meeting his match.
Just fascinating watching Reid versus Windhager.
Saint Marcus Windhager applying a second-half tag on the young bull, his composure coming unstuck.
We'll keep working with him on how to manage the run with. We'll keep working on the rest of our group and how to manage that situation and what we can do to help.
Reid's suspension blowing the Rising Star race wide open should the club accept it. The Suns stunning the second-place Bombers.
And maybe the Gold Coast time has come.
Goal for goal in the final term, Gold Coast holding on to secure the 11-point win.
Wheels around on the arc and drills it.
Moving into the top 8 and ending Essendon's 4-match winning run. Richmond handed another cruel blow, McKelty Lafau rupturing his ACL in a marking contest. The 25-year-old is the 5th Tiger to suffer the dreaded injury this season. Adding to the pain, Marlon Pickett in doubt for next week's clash, sent for scans on a sore calf. The forward, losing his cool with the crowd, issued a please explain for flipping his middle finger at fans.
We cop a lot of stuff from defence line. Every week the disrespectful stuff, but we just got to keep pushing.
A 10-goal-to-1 second half helping Geelong avoid a 5th straight loss, running out 30-point winners. Alexia Pesce, 9 News.
West Coast's mid-season draftee Jack Hutchinson has made an immediate impact on Waffle debut, booting 5 goals to help the Eagles clinch a 2-point win over Perth. The 22-year-old landing in the West just 2 days ago.
As easy as you like. The fiver on debut.
It's been a bit of a whirlwind couple of days, that's for sure, with the flight and everything, and then meeting all the new boys. But yeah, I was lucky enough to get on the end of a couple, and yeah, credit to the boys who got the win, stood strong, so it's good.
Midfielder Jai Cully pushing his case for a senior recall with an equal team-high 30 touches to go with 7 tackles and a goal. South Fremantle's Isaiah Winder isn't giving up on an AFL lifeline despite being overlooked in this week's mid-season draft. The midfielder concentrating on continuing his white-hot form and undergoing post-season surgery in a bid to get back to the top.
Only 7 matches into life as a Bulldog, Isaiah Winder's feeling right at home.
I'm having a good time and I do back my confidence. I've made a lot of changes in my footy.
After stints at Peel and the Eagles, the 22-year-old's now one of the most damaging midfielders.
But that's a superb kick, well read.
I've always kind of wanted to be an impactful player, and being able to use the ball well and being able to be a mid that kicks goal helps the team a lot.
Averaging 25 touches and a goal, not enough to earn him an AFL call-up in Wednesday's mid-season draft.
Sides are picking up blokes that can come in ready to play, and a niggle is a little bit of a risk, so I understand where they're coming from. I just probably not at 100% health at the moment.
Winder's season to date even more impressive, dealing with a nagging knee injury. Post-season surgery to sideline him for 3 months.
It's been there for a while now, and hopefully I can get it right.
Hopeful an AFL lifeline will come in the national draft, adding to his 7 games as an Eagle.
When you get drafted to a club, you obviously want to be a 100, 200 game player, and that just wasn't my journey at the time.
Winder's immediate focus, his first WA Day derby against defending premiers East Fremantle.
It will add a little bit of spice. Obviously, we're both going pretty well at the moment.
The 124-year-long rivalry as strong as ever.
It's a game that divides the city. It transcends generations.
South Fremantle seeking 7,000 fans, the largest home and away Waffle crowd in a decade, putting on extra bars, food vans, a DJ and kid activations in scenes reminiscent of the 2020 Grand Final.
Having almost like a bit of a Big Bash styled or a Wildcat styled experience at Waffle football, which really is about how can we make sure people have a wonderful day at the Waffle.
Paddy Sweeney, 9 News.
West Coast Fever believe their 10th win over the Lightning will serve as a prelude for Saturday night's clash against the Thunderbirds. Fever grinding out the 71-68 win after overcoming the loss of mid-quarter Jordan Kransberg to illness, expecting another arm wrestle against the reigning champions.
I think tonight was a great test for us to hold our nerve under pressure and go goal for goal, and we expect very similar type of intensity against the Thunderbirds next week.
The late injection of goal attack Olivia Wilkinson providing the game-changing buffer. Well, Western Force insist they've got the group to compete next Super Rugby season following last night's campaign-ending loss to the Brumbies. The home side finishing fast, helping to flatter the 19-24 scoreline, confident there's plenty to build on next year.
We've got the catalyst just about performing on the field and consistently for 80 minutes, so... it was a disappointing night, but, there's a lot of positives to take from the season.
Force farewelling former captains Ian Pryor and Michael Wells. Wells retiring after 111 caps, while Pryor's contract was not renewed. And finally tonight, Alex de Minaur is hitting top form in Paris, where he shot into the 4th round at Roland Garros. But as soon as he'd sealed victory, de Minaur hit social media to track down a special someone.
A big win followed by a big hug from the Demons' biggest fan. Alex de Minaur's embrace with the youngster has now gone viral, viewed more than 600,000 times online. Now to find the boy who spent the best part of 10 hours cheering the Demon to victory.
He gave me life. Every single change of hands, I'm looking at him and I'm locking eyes with him. And, I just gave him a hug. I was like, mate, that was relief.
De Minaur now becomes the first Australian male to win through to the 4th round in 17 years. And on the back of that 4-set win over Jan Lennard Struff, de Minaur is full of confidence ahead of a showdown with Daniel Medvedev.
I'm extremely stoked to have made the second week of Roland Garros.
Thanasi Kokkinakis was brave, but against Taylor Fritz, couldn't quite get over the line, beaten in 5. In London, 2 goals in the second half has seen Real Madrid conquer the Champions League.
This surely will wrap it up.
Dortmund left to rue several squandered chances as Real lifted the trophy for a record-extending 15th time.
It's their trophy again. It's Real Madrid's trophy again.
And at the Women's US Open, Minjee Lee has bolted into contention after carding a 66. On the hunt for a 3rd major, the Aussie has a share of the lead ahead of tonight's final round.
A lot of people watching and, I'm just going to try and stay in the moment, but, it's always nice to be in the final group.
Clint Stanaway, 9 News.
Tracy, big day ahead tomorrow for the Eagles if they decide to appeal that 2-match suspension for Harley Reid. But how about that kid with Alex de Minaur? Isn't that just what sport is all about?
I hope they track him down.
Yeah,
all right, Bonnie.
I think they will.
Yes, thanks, Bonnie. Next, inside the New York Stock Exchange with a familiar face, plus cameras in the classrooms. The new call to keep teachers safe from students. And Natalia Cooper, more cold fronts on the way.
Yes, Tracy, we'll get a break for a few days. Then a front will bring us more rain on Thursday with another front due next weekend. All the details are coming up.
Desperate teachers are calling for Queensland to trial body cameras to help them feel safe in the classroom. More than 20,000 students were excluded or suspended for physical aggression last year, a 5-year high for the state. The Queensland Teachers Association says video footage could help parents and managers understand the behavioural issues they're facing daily. New York's Wall Street is the heart of the world's finance sector and the home of one very recognisable trader. You may not know Peter Tuchman's name, but his face has appeared countless times in newspapers around the world. 9 News joined the man dubbed the Einstein of Wall Street inside the New York Stock Exchange.
He's ridden the highs, the lows, the moments that matter on Wall Street.
So, look, I have been here for a long time, some say for 100 years.
Peter Tuchman is the most photographed trader in the New York Stock Exchange, a spirited stockman who's been around the block.
Tell me, what are the biggest moments that you've witnessed on Wall Street?
The bubble of 2000, the financial crisis of 07, 08, and obviously COVID. I've seen every crisis and crash since 1987.
The 80s. Ronald Reagan was the US president, Bob Hawke was Australia's Prime Minister, and Black Monday saw the stock market descend into the biggest single-day drop in history.
On that day, that was probably one of the craziest days I've ever experienced. You know, I had never gotten that sense of despair and stress and absolute craziness, feeling like the world was coming to an end.
But the world kept on spinning, and the showman of the stock exchange was snapped and papped time and again.
A lot of those shots were literally in the heat of battle, right? You're buying and selling, representing a customer. You know, there's news out, there's a war happening, it's COVID, markets are opening and closing and all that kind of stuff.
In the 4 decades Peter Tuchman has been working here on Wall Street, things have changed a lot. Technology means trading is now more accessible than ever. In fact, you can do it from the palm of your hand.
Investing, everybody should be investing in their future.
But let's be real. Right now, budgets are tight and the cost of living has soared. So what would the Einstein of Wall Street do?
I'm a cup half full guy, not a cup half empty guy. And I know that people are struggling. My recommendation for people is everybody should be putting money aside on a weekly or monthly basis. Whatever it is, $5, $10, $100, $250, put it into the market in any way you feel fit, right? And sort of have that kind of an account to invest in your future.
And as you invest in your future, Peter Tuchman will be investing too, just as soon as the bell rings at the New York Stock Exchange.
It means that you're about to do some epic, right?
On Wall Street, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
A US woman has learned the hard way never to poke the bear when one appeared in her own backyard. The wild animal started to chase down her dog Zeus, so Bailey Jacobson sprung into action, yelling out and sprinting after them. But the bear soon pivoted and lunged at Bailey, making her the one to turn tail and run. After last night's wild storms, what does the week have in store? Natalia with the weather next.
Welcome back. It was a wild night with thunderstorms, heavy rain and strong winds. Today, just a shower here and there. After a low overnight of 15, we climbed to a top of 20 degrees, and right now in the city, it's sitting on 16.8. To the charts, and the cold front, which smashed us overnight, brought showers as far north as the Gascoyne and inland Pilbara. That front is now making its way through central and eastern parts of the state. There's still a severe weather warning for damaging wind gusts in coastal areas between Augusta and Albany. Across the nation tomorrow, sunny and 21 in Brisbane, 19 the top for Sydney, and cloudy and just 14 degrees in Melbourne. Back in the north of our state, showers easing in 29 in Broome, sunny and 29 in Port Hedland, 25 the top in Exmouth and 24 degrees for Carnarvon. Further south, partly cloudy and 23 degrees in Geraldton, a shower or two for Bunbury and showers in Augusta and Albany. On the waters tomorrow, southwesterly winds 15 to 20 knots, becoming variable below 10 knots in the late evening, seas to 1 1.5 metres and swell as high as a big 5 metres. Around the suburbs tomorrow, a shower or two and 22 in Joondalup, 21 the top in Fremantle and Rockingham, and Mandurah might get a couple of millimetres in the gauges. So tomorrow for the public holiday, partly cloudy skies, a shower or two most likely to fall in the morning, 21 the top after a low tonight of 12 degrees. Looking ahead, partly cloudy and 22 degrees on Tuesday, sunshine and 22 on Wednesday. Now that next front is due on Thursday, so we can expect showers to increase, possibly as much as 25 millimetres could land in the gauge. More showers for Friday, showers increasing again on Saturday when we could see another 30 millimetres, and next Sunday is set to be wet as well with up to 25 millimetres. Winter is certainly letting us know that it's here, Tracy.
Has arrived indeed. Natalia, thanks very much. And that's 9 News this Sunday. Thanks for your company. Join us for Today Perth for more local news from 6:30 tomorrow morning. From the team, enjoy your evening. Good night.